Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is just less than a week away now, and it is set to be one of the most impressive, high quality, and overall just one of the most exciting launches for all of 2024. And with how impressive it does look, today I wanted to go over 5 impressive mechanics we'll be seeing in Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Now, the first impressive mechanic is not necessarily a mechanic in itself, it is just something that is pretty interesting to think about, and this is the fact that this is one of the first games that is actually made in Unreal Engine 5, as surprising as that may sound to a lot of people. Unreal Engine 5 has been around for a few years now. There were demos shown of it back in, I want to say 2022, even potentially before that. But funnily enough, not that many games have actually launched yet, in terms of big games anyway, that have been released using Unreal Engine 5. The only real notable games so far have been Fortnite, which was actually switched over to since it was originally made in Unreal Engine 4. And then the likes of, for example, Ark Survival Ascended, Lords of the Fallen, and The Finals are really the only other big games that have launched in Unreal Engine 5 so far. There have been a handful of more indie games, or I guess smaller games, that are also in Unreal Engine 5. But when it comes to the bigger sort of blockbuster AAA type of games, this realistically is one of the first 5 or so games that is releasing in this engine. And that is definitely very exciting. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the crazy potential that Unreal Engine 5 can produce. And I'm really excited to see that potential, with especially how long they've been working on this game and how good the first game looked, when realistically that was borderline an indie game, because at that point they weren't owned by Microsoft. Ninja Theory was a much smaller team back then. So like I said, not really a mechanic, but I think the fact that this is one of the first true Unreal Engine 5s launching on a next-gen console, I think we're in for some very exciting moments, especially when it comes to the quality. Now, something else that has really impressed me from all of the stuff that devs have shown off so far is the fact that they are fully reworking the combat, building it essentially from the ground up rather than using what they had built in the first game. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is going to have entirely new animations that are far more realistic than the first game, and that is pretty awesome to say, because the first game I thought actually played really well, and it also looked very nice and clean too. It did feel realistic when you were playing it, but the gameplay and the combat they've shown off so far looks even more realistic. They've talked about how the attacks that you do as Senua feel a lot heavier and a bit more grounded, and with that, no doubt comes the feeling of a more brutal type of combat as well, which I think suits the overall direction of this game too. I found it interesting to hear that the first game only took them 2 days to record all of the mocap for the combat, which is obviously not very long at all. Like I said, this was a small team at that time. It was, as far as I'm aware, pretty much an indie team, and 2 days to record the motion capture is not very long at all. But this game has taken over 70 hours to record all of that motion capture, which, considering the game is essentially going to be the same length, that shows how much more detailed the combat is going to be in the second game. Now, if you guys are new to the channel and you are interested in more Hellblade 2 content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is plenty more content on the way, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, something else that has really impressed me so far is to do with essentially the level design and some of the landscapes that we've seen in the trailers they've released so far. To me, it looks like some of the most detailed level design that I think I've ever seen across any video game ever. Now, again, this does kind of speak volumes of Unreal Engine 5 and the quality that that can bring to any games that are made in that engine. But at the end of the day, the engine doesn't make all of this stuff. It is obviously developed by real people, and so the developers themselves deserve all of the praise. It isn't just because of Unreal Engine 5, it is because of the awesome work they're putting into all of these environments. And I think compared to the first game as well, it does look like a breath of fresh air, that not everything is so sort of dark and gloomy. Obviously, there will be many dark moments throughout this game where we are quite literally in the dark, and just the environments are sort of darker, those more gray, monotone type of colors. But from some of the gameplay we have seen, it does look like there is a lot more vibrance and just colorful locations that we get to go to. The lighting across all of these different landscapes look absolutely phenomenal as well, which again was really good in the first game. And I genuinely think we are in for some of the best level design in terms of the detail and the quality that we've ever really seen before. Now, the next one is kind of odd. You may be thinking, who the hell cares about what I'm about to talk about? But this one is some really impressive cloud forming technology. Now, like I said, this might sound odd. Who really cares about clouds in any game? It does not affect the gameplay. It doesn't make the game any better. But to me, this really goes to show the level of detail they're putting into the game. The fact that they're putting so much effort and quality into areas that players probably won't even really notice. notice. Ninja Theory shared on Twitter this video that you guys can see here of essentially a new process in which they are creating this like cloud forming technology. And as you can see, it looks genuinely real. And again, that is such a small touch that at the end of the day does not really matter. If the clouds looked absolutely terrible, I don't think that really makes the game worse. But to me, little touches like this do really add sort of a quality level and just general immersion that us as players will definitely notice, even if it is more subconscious. For me, I think little touches like this often result in players feeling that sort of way where you go, I don't know why this game felt so awesome, but it just did, where we can't really put a finger on what was so good about it. But I do think that a lot of the time when you have that feeling towards a game, it is these really small, intricate details that the devs have put a lot of work into that, like I said, at the end of the day, who cares about the clouds? But this combined with all of the other small little intricate details they're going to be doing, I think it really does make the game feel a lot more immersive and really separates it from a lot of other games that it is competing with. Now, the last impressive mechanic in this game is to do with the audio. I did touch on this in a previous video, but the sound design in this game is also getting a big overhaul, pretty much the same way that the combat is. And with that, they are adding binaural and spatial audio to essentially every single element of sound in the entire game. Now, for those who don't know what binaural and spatial audio means, that is realistically that more 3D feeling audio, where at times you may just hear a voice in only your left ear, not your entire headset. You can still have 3D audio as far as I'm aware without it necessarily being binaural, but when you do have binaural audio, it definitely just adds to that quality and kind of makes the audio sound a lot more realistic rather than, like I said, just all of the sounds kind of happening in a bit of a mess throughout your headset. And that is going to make the sound design in this game absolutely insane. Now, Hellblade 1 did have binaural and spatial audio as well, but in that game, it was really only the voices in Senua's head. So if you guys have played that game, you'll know that at times there was like a voice in your left ear, it would say something, and then a voice in your right ear would sort of say something in return. That right there is a prime example of binaural and spatial audio, but like I said, it was only really implemented when it came to the voices in Senua's head. This time they are doing it with essentially every single sound. So when we're in combat, we are going to hear that sort of binaural and spatial audio from just, you know, enemies fighting with other characters, even just footsteps behind us and stuff like that. It is going to be a lot more immersive and probably feel a lot more 3D than the first game did. And to me, that is definitely very impressive. I think this game could genuinely end up as one of the highest quality audio designs that we've ever really seen in any game before. So those are 5 of the most impressive mechanics and implementations coming to Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Let me know in the comments which of these you are most excited for. I think for me, it would definitely have to be the combat upgrades, as well as seeing how insane the level design is. But that is going to do it for this one. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.